Good afternoon, good evening, everybody, wherever you are. For some, it's the morning. Hey, it's about 10:30 here in Las Vegas, and I wanted to go over the chart today and show you from the midnight open yesterday, where we had buy and sell targets and general trend, and they worked out pretty well this morning. I've got a new line on my chart. It's an in trend buy and an in trend sell entry. This is when price action drops down below this line or above the buy entry line or below the sell entry line, where you should get in either short or long, where it's safe, where price action's not going to whip back on you, and it definitely is in trend. So we see from the chart here, I want to show you a couple of things. Um, Number one, the Asian high and the Asian low, and the London high and the London low. Um, you can see there was some actually at the London. Let me scroll back to the Asian here, and you can see where the Asian market opened. It opened high and then kind of fiddled around up here at the top, and then dumped a little bit, and then almost at the end of the session it dumped. Okay, the London session, as you can see, when it opened, it fiddled around, it jumped up a little bit, and then jumped down and jumped up, and so we see a lot of volatility here in the London high, London low open. What I'm using here is they're called Hurst bands, and if you'll notice, they generally follow and generally provide a quarter or a conduit um, um, for price action. So they generally follow price action, and they generally price action generally stays within these bands. Now, what I did was I used them at open to determine trend, and both bands were price action was up here when the market opened, and it did shoot up high. It opened, but that was come to find out that was a false signal. Well, we knew that because the Hurst bands are pointing down. So basically, the general trend was short. Even though it popped up here, it was a false signal. And what they did was, if you'll look at this line right here, the in trend buy entry. Um, there's a bunch of people that know that on Wall Street that know that line, and what they did was they popped up price action above the in trend buy entry point, so that people would grab it and run with it, and then go long, and then people that weren't paying any attention to the trend go, oh hey, I gotta go long, and then wait, guess what? They got crushed. Um, so you can see some pretty wild swings in the market this morning. Um, it opened right around here, um, and was it 28, 21, 21, 78, 75. Okay, so it opened, shot up, came down, shot up, came down, came blah blah blah. Okay, so we had a fair bit of volatility, but we never got we never passed our in trend sell entry. Now, here's what's kind of interesting. So the trend is down. So what I'm saying is, when the trend is down, don't take any trades until it drops below this in trend sell entry, and you can let it drop a couple of ticks and then get in. Okay. What happened was, at this particular point, the price action on this bar, and you can't see it, I'd have to replay it. It popped up one tick above 2176.75. So what you could have done is you could have taken that short with a very tight stop, and that's what these sell and buy entries are designed to do. They're designed to be able to let you take a sell entry or a buy entry with a reasonable stop, instead of I know some guys that they run 5 point stops, and on the ES that's a lot of money. I personally, I run an 8 point stop, and I can tighten that down. In fact, I'm considering tightening that down to a sorry, not an 8 point, an 8 tick stop, which is 2 points. I've considered tightening that down to a 4 tick, which is just which is 1 point, which is, you know, you're risking $50 per contract, which isn't much. Now, if you look at this, if you got in right around here, 2176.75, it came down. Price action came down. Did not even come close to that target low. Okay, so even if you'd gotten a couple, if you'd set your buy, you know, your cover price a couple of ticks short of that, didn't even come close, which is telling me, hey, the market's going to come back down. So market came back up. It did not, if you'll notice, it didn't even come up to that sell entry. So even if you'd set your stop to break even, you know, after this, you know, after this bar, say for example, after the pivot point, if you just set your stop to break even, or a fib level down here, midpoint, pivot point, any sort of fib level down here, you would have been pretty safe because it came up, never touched the sell entry point. Came right back down, and bam, we got a fill on the target low. It went beyond the target low, but that's okay. And then it popped back up. Anyway, that was the one and done, basically the one and done trade for the day. I did not take that. I took the buy. I was stupid. Took the buy up here and got stopped out, and that was, you know, that was it for the day. Me personally, I wasn't looking at the trend line. I thought the trend line might be wrong, and I have to trust the computer, trust the indicators, trust the automation. And in this particular case, it did not steer me wrong. What happened? Here we go again. We've got trend down. We have an entry up here. I've got buy and sell entries, which are actually, those are fib points, 61.8 and 38.2. And those are solely to get rid of this chop here, so that all these orders that have been kind of piling up here, see all these orders down here and all this real tight range, it allows that market open to kind of be a pressure valve and kind of let off some steam here, some volatility, because price action will jump up and down and fiddle around. It lets it get rid of this without putting you at risk of getting whipsawed. If you just jump in and if you jumped in like I did and took an entry, you know, it came up and that was like 10 ticks or something. So I was basically, you know, I was out of the game. I should have paid attention to the chart, and I should have listened to this. This evening when I got home, I started putting on these buy and these sell entry points. The midnight open, by the way, and that was something that Pat Hare turned me on to, drawing levels on the midnight open, and it has worked out very well. You can draw lines on the cash open, but you know, the midnight open targets seem to work pretty well. Cash market open, the cash open was pretty close to the midnight open, so I could use this chart for my buy and my sell entries here. Otherwise, I would flip over to a cash market, to a cash open chart to get my buy and my sell entries from that particular point. So my targets I'm getting from the midnight open chart, and my entries for the trade I'm getting from the cash market. Anyway, that's about it for today. I hope you guys had a absolutely wonderful day trading, and you traded green. And if you were, you know, if you were great, you got in here, or you got in even up here. Hey, you know, you got in at the buy entry, and because you knew the market was going to sell off, and you sold down, and you covered back here, and then you reversed and came back up here and made some money there, and then came back down here and then came up there. So there's, you know, 1, 2, 3, you know, 4 potential good trades there. I hope you got them. I hope you made a lot of money today. Trade green, and we'll talk